Hello, I'm Zash, and welcome to episode 59 of my Senjou no Maou, or The Devil on G-String, Let's Read. Joining me, as always, is my co-reader Faith. The hostage crisis is still ongoing, but the kidnapper has changed. Hashimoto has left the stage, probably run off to somewhere where he can't be arrested, and has been replaced by all people, Yuki, Mizuha's own sister. She must be incredibly desperate after Haru revealed her as the mastermind behind the entire plot. How is she going to escape? Is she going to escape? Or will Maou, or Kyosuke, have to silence her? Anyway, please enjoy.
Winter Wonderland, waiting just beyond an oak and beach-lined promenade. This hill in the eastern district of Tomenbetsu City was Mizuha and Yuki's favorite spot to play.
What do you want to name it, One-chan?
They had spent 2 hours making a child-sized snowman.
You name it, Mizuha. You did most of the work. I want you to name it.
Mizuha always copped a bratty attitude around her parents, but today, with Yuki, she wore a carefree smile.
Then,
Yuki began with crossed arms.
How does Yukitaro sound? Yeah, Yukitaro. It's so cute. Nah, we can do better than that. Like what? Let's name it after the boy you like. Don't do that. It would be embarrassing.
The cold, fluffy snow piled up on the sisters' shoulders. Snowflakes landed on the tips of their toes, gradually melting into the warmth of their shoes. Perhaps not unlike the endlessly dancing white weather, Mizuha's laughter refused to subside. This was an old, happy memory. They had played with all their hearts until nightfall. They didn't want to go home. They didn't want to leave the sense of unity for their typically divided family. What awaited them was a strange household with 2 mothers. Yuki never bothered to consider how her parents and Mizuha's had come to live together until much later. Nevertheless, it seemed Yuki's mother was important to the Shiratori household. Even in her earliest memories, Yuki remembers her mother doling out orders as her father's personal assistant.
Hey, guess what? I'm gonna marry you, One-chan.
Her sister's sweet voice made its way to Yuki's ears. It was an unforgettably serene sensation.
Sisters aren't supposed to get married, but me and you are different. Yep, that means we can get married. Too bad I'm not a boy, Mizuha.
She was an adorable little sister. The snowflakes caught in her eyelashes glittered like teardrops framing her innocent smile.
Do you love me, One-chan?
Of course I do.
I love you too.
Mizuha shuffled her feet about, then gathered up the displaced snow in her hands.
What are you doing?
Mizuha smiled mischievously as she packed a tiny snowball.
Hey, wait. You aren't going to throw that at me, are you? Oh, come on, of course not. This is Yukitaro's dinner. His dinner?
Mizuha was a sweet little girl. Her diligent preparation of a snowman's meal was no less dazzling to her cool, mature older sister.
Oh, what should we put in the rice balls? Apricots?
We don't have any apricots.
Then what are we going to put in them? Words.
Words?
Yeah.
Words are strong.
They're strong? Well, if the pen is mightier than the sword, then I say they must be. Oh yeah, and 3 hostile newspapers are scarier than 1,000 bayonets. You're so smart, One-chan.
Mizuha's tiny head nodded over and over. Yuki dearly loved her little puppy of a sister.
Even if we put apricots in those rice balls, this food will still just disappear, right? Yeah, the apricots would die too. But words never disappear. They can't die as long as we remember them. Oh, I get it.
Yuki is being impressively deep for a kid.
Yeah, smart.
Even if Yukitaro melts, the words we left will never disappear. Wow, but words really are strong. Remember, Misaho, if anything happens, speak up. No matter how scary someone is, you can always make them understand with words. Papa and Mama too?
Yuki smirked at that. Yuki was still young and innocent. She had yet to understand the critical role of violence following in the shadows of words.
Of course. Alright, let's give Yukitaro his dinner. Yeah, I've already figured out the words. Already? What are they?
Her little sister cheerfully answered.
Misaha will stick with Nessa no matter what.
Yuki couldn't help but crack a smile.
Hey, wait. Don't make the snowman eat those words.
Their laughter diffused into the winter sky. The sun gradually sank behind the horizon, dimming the earth. But the sisters' radiance was not so easily wrested. Not the slightest hint of their coming parting was present in those dazzling winter days. Ellipses. Ellipses.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning. The men who had been chasing Tokita reported in, and she had apparently last been seen with Shiratori near the docks in the western district. The sounds of the night and the waves crashing against the wharf were interrupted by the ringing of my cell phone.
It's me, Azai-san. Where are you right now?
At the harbor.
I see. Yuki's likely hiding in some warehouse.
Why do you think that?
She sent me a cell phone picture just a moment ago.
What was the picture?
It was Misaho. Her arms were tied behind her back.
Now even her sister's gone and taken her hostage? Well, was there a caption or anything?
Bring the director to the warehouses near Azai-san.
And what if we don't?
Do you really need to ask?
She'll kill Shiratori.
Anyway, I'll be there ASAP. I showed the director the picture, and he said he'll come too.
Alright. In the meantime, we'll look for the warehouse Tokita is in, and get a perimeter set up. What is Tokita planning? She's not really going to kill Shiratori, is she? Is she doing all this just to get back at the director?
He's brought quite the squad. Dozens of rushing footsteps beat at the ground outside the warehouse. Light peeked out from the outside, so it was likely quite easy to locate Yuki and Mizuho amongst the port's many storage buildings. A few short moments later, men were already kicking at the door and shouting. The warehouse's iron door held fast and strong. They were nothing but a gang of hoodlums. Unlike the police, they didn't have the tools necessary to force their way inside. What will you do now, Ne-san? What? You won't be able to run away anymore. We'll see about that, she said as she shrugged her shoulders rebelliously. I'll get away. Just watch. How? Through the front door. You won't. I will make it. I told you once about the power of words, didn't I? Mizuho bit her lip after realizing her sister's intentions. Yuki idly looked down at her as she considered her options for the coming negotiation. It would be simple. Her opponents were a gaggle of amateurs. The director would be too worried about his precious reputation to call the police. Even considering Haru's raw logic, Yuki still had her nemesis vested soundly when it came to persuasive skill. The only problem would be her final bastion of innocence. Once Yuki commits a crime herself, she is turned down a dark path in which there is no return. Her father's golden record would be forever tarnished if his daughter became a criminal. It is for this reason that Yuki apologized to her father, Tokita Akihiro, in her heart. She desperately wished she could have at least said a word of parting to him. But the march of time would permit no such thing. Please, Ne-san. Reconsider, won't you? Mizuho spoke directly to the hesitation in Yuki's heart. However, her pleading, sycophantic expression only reminded Yuki of her filthy biological father, and the hatred within her burned away what barriers held her resolve in check. The die is cast, Misa.
Around an hour later, Usami showed up with the director in tow. The sea breeze swept up her long hair and tousled it about. That one there, Usami. See the faint light coming from the window?
Good work. That's got to be the one. How did they even get in there?
Usami's question was right on the mark, but I didn't have an answer. What's going on this time? The director flared up at me despite his exhausted appearance. Was Yuki really behind everything? That girl's mother embezzled money from my company, you know. I could have handed her over to the police, but I didn't. I let her off the hook and just kicked her out of my house. She should be thanking me, not holding some grudge, he said with a sigh. Criminal parent, criminal kid, I guess.
Ellipses.
The director was lucky we had such a strong wind this morning. The eyes peeking at him from behind Usami's long, windswept bangs bore all the horror of Azai Gonzo's. I interrupted his whining. That's great, director. You didn't even get the police involved when you were the victim of some embezzlement? That probably means you'll want to keep this little case under wraps too, right? Yeah, how about you? Oh, I couldn't agree more. If we keep the events of this awful night a secret, even Tokita might have a future. Ellipses. Not that Tokita's future is of any importance to me. It'd just be a waste of an able mind. I mean, if I build my connections with her now, she'll be of use to me in the future.
I'll try calling Yuki.
Yeah. Oh, use that device you used before so I can hear too. Usami quickly took out her phone and began to fit it with the widget.
The phone rang. You're late, Haru.
Have you got the right place, Yuki?
Yes, I'm right here in the warehouse. No tricks this time, Haru. You brought the director, right? The man himself spoke up in response.
Hey, Yuki, do you realize who you're screwing around with here?
A worthless son of a bitch who can't do anything without his mistress.
What?
Yuki imagined his red face flushed with anger. As she provoked him, she listened to the ambient sounds in the background. The roaring sound of the sea breeze announced that he was indeed outside the warehouse.
What do you want, Yuki?
Haru, oh Haru. Hostage crises require a bit of tactful foreplay.
You mean we need to build trust before I can ask your demands?
That's right. At the moment, I'm a stranger to you.
Don't be ridiculous. You were my friend. I'm just as heartbroken as Mizuha must be about all this. I still can't quite believe it.
Yuki laughs at Haru's emotional voice. If she doesn't, the guilt will tear her apart. You sound like a bad soap opera, Haru. We got you surrounded. Now look, your mother's crying.
Yuki!
Pipe down a little, Haru. If you're too emotional, you might agitate the criminal enough to make them do something that can't be undone. She looks at her bound sister with an icy glare. I'll tell you my demands, Haru, Yuki suddenly says. Prepare a car within the hour.
That's not all, is it?
Oh, how'd you know? If you were just trying to get away, you wouldn't have gone to the trouble of calling out the director. I'm glad you understand. That should expedite things.
Where are you planning on taking the director in the car?
Who knows? But I can tell you it won't be a very leisurely Sunday drive for him. You could hear Haru's breathing stop over the phone. You got it? No more questions? Now, Until the car gets here, we're suspending all negotiations. Negotiators try to do what they can to get a reaction out of the criminal. After all, if the criminal is completely unresponsive, negotiations wouldn't have much of a leg to stand on. Yuki knows that, and plans to avoid all unnecessary contact with Haru.
Wait, Yuki. What do you plan to do if we don't accept your conditions?
What do you think the hostage is for? Mizuha isn't an ornament.
Don't lie to me. You wouldn't lay a finger on her.
You might be surprised, Haru. Yuki feigned composure, but the anger inside her was erupting into a mighty tempest. What exactly do you think you know about me? Why don't you take a look in the mirror? If you could keep Maou from me all this time, there's no telling what I might do.
Ellipses.
You get me? There's darkness in every heart. There are secrets that become game changers. You can never truly know what someone might suddenly do. What's that mirror looking like, Haru? You still think that we're friends attitude will do you any good? Following that final provocation, Haru's voice changed entirely. If I could keep Maou from you, you say? Yuki had finally let slip her connection to Maou. It was unimportant, though. Haru's connection to him, her absurd bloodlust, had been a case in Yuki's point. It was likely her deepest darkness, one of those secrets known only to herself. I know the Maou. Oh, we shared a hotel room once. He's crooked, but he's a man of principle. Kinda like you. The gauntlet had been thrown.
Very well, Yuki.
Haru said as her tension noticeably doubled.
If you choose to identify yourself as both an agent and supporter of Maou, then I won't go easy on you.
Oh, how terrifying. Despite her sarcasm, Yuki's smile twitched. At any rate, you have 1 hour. If you're late, one of the hero's precious comrades will be left in pieces. So hurry up, would you? Sure. Haru punctuated her response by hanging up on Yuki. Nessa? Younger sister was uneasy. Nevertheless, she merely looked up at Yuki as if she were worried for her sake. Haru had allowed her anger to show through her poker face. A display of tension during a negotiation can excite the criminal. You should be worried for your own sake, Mizuha. You heard what I just said. Don't be so naive as to think I won't hurt you. Fear consumed Mizuha's eyes, and Yuki was satisfied.
Ellipses. Megalipses. That woman has got to be kidding. I tried to snap Usami out of the trance she's been in since the call ended.
Yuki used to reminisce fondly about the days she spent with her mother.
Ellipses.
They had no relatives to rely on, and they lived in a small factory in Hokuriku. Her mother worked there. They had no money, practically no clothes, but her mother always did everything she could for her.
Sounds familiar somehow.
One day, the village they were living in became divided on an issue. Some people were in support of building a dam in the town, and some people were rapidly against it. Yuki's mother, through her experience at a construction company, knew what good things a dam could bring to the village, so she supported it. In the end, the construction project was halted. What do you think happened to the supporters after that?
Alright, I get it already. I'm no good with these kinds of stories. I shook my head, not wanting to hear more. I had a similar experience. Family standing is important in a small village. Tokita and her mother were ostracized, right?
Yes. Their home was burned down.
Oh, come on. That's just way too far out there.
No, Yuki insisted it was arson.
Not that any legal ramifications could have addressed the root of the problem. Still, if what the director said was true, she had it coming to her. Everything was fine until she embezzled money from his company, right?
Yuki said the embezzlement was a complete fabrication. She told me about the situation, and her story seemed very credible.
You can't say for certain that she wasn't lying to you, or she had her facts straight in the first place.
In any case, it wasn't Yuki's fault.
It doesn't matter whose fault it was, Usami. Good people have bad luck too. There's no point in holding grudges so long for every little thing.
Ellipses.
Ellipses. What are we arguing about? Let's just try to stick to the problem at hand.
Yeah,
We closed in on each other and talked in whispers. What do we know? Tokita demanded a car. She plans on taking the director hostage and running away somewhere. Her ultimate objective is likely to kill him.
I agree so far.
Then, what's our best course of action? Prepare a car as it demanded?
Yeah, for now.
Usami thought silently for a moment. Alright, I'll get on it. It shouldn't take anywhere near an hour. I arranged for the car to get here immediately. Megalipses. Ellipses.
Hey, Mizuho. Yuki broke the silence as she twirled her hair in boredom. Did you ever gather the courage to tell Kyosuke-kun how you felt? Does it really matter right now? Well, you might not get another chance, you know. Mizuho stared straight into Yuki. It was an unshakably resolute stare, one that defied the gravity of her situation. Is that scar form? Mizuho nodded. Do you remember the day I gave it to you? I caught a cold. Did that gift make you happy? Yeah. Mizuho's idle stare transformed into a blissful expression. Her eyes narrowed as she reminisced on days gone by. She was weak to old times. Yuki suddenly posed a question to her sister, snapping her out of her trance. Why didn't you try to contact me? I told you. I didn't know where you lived. Couldn't you have tracked me down? I'm sorry. I remembered that scarf when my mother's pneumonia took a turn for the worst. Mizuho interrupted her with a sob. And you regretted giving it to me? Yuki sneered at Mizuho as tears filled her eyes. What do you expect? Instead of getting up off your ass long enough to find me, you just kept living the good life here with your father. That's not... And things never change, do they? You declined my invitation into the last plot. If you had just cooperated with me, the whole operation would have gone over smoothly. The director wouldn't have stood a chance. In the end, you chose him over me. Stop, this isn't like you. Oh, no, it's very much like her. She's a complicated little kid. No, you stop. Stop trying to appeal to my emotions. I'm no longer the little girl who made snowmen with you. Mizuho looked down and desperately continued. Do you hate Dad that much? Of course I do, Yuki said as her eyes snapped open. This revenge is premeditated, not some pathetic act of passion. The hate and resentment I bear for that man doesn't fade away. It simmers, distilled itself, and grows stronger and stronger. But there was a reason you had to leave the house. What, that farce of an embezzlement? My mother would have never done something like that. That was a setup your father concocted. He was desperate to cut all ties with his mistress. Do you want to see proof? I have plenty. Maou had helped her investigate the circumstances surrounding her exile about 1 year ago. Come to think of it, it was likely at that moment, the moment she sold herself to the devil, that the wheels of her revenge had begun to spin. Did you know my mother was ill when your father threw us out of the house? Mizuho didn't respond. She was likely too young to remember those days, but Yuki would never forget. She would never forget the blood on her mother's lips and hands as she coughed out her lungs, or the smiling face she used to tell Yuki that everything was fine. How could that man throw a woman in that condition out in the cold? Yeah, I realized she was nothing but a mistress. I realized that. She was bound to be done away with at some point. The cruelty has its limits. Did he really have to throw her out onto the street? Yuki knew complaining to Misaha about her mother's pain and humiliation wouldn't do any good, but she couldn't help herself. Know this, Misaha. My mother's blood is on your father's hands. That doesn't mean you have to go this far. Misa may be your sister, but she's still an outsider. There's no way she could understand. Even Yuki couldn't muster the empathy to consider other people's problems to be her own. Once upon a time, each of those countless convicts had told her a life story, but she had listened as an unconcerned bystander. Yuki decided to respond leniently. I know revenge won't bring my mother back from the dead, but it might bring me back from the brink of hell. Once you start thinking of revenge as the only form of salvation, you're past the point of no return. As if to punctuate the end of her thought, the phone rang. Yuki quickly drew in a breath and exhaled before answering. That was fast, Haru.
We have the car you asked for.
Well done. Leave the engine running, would you? I want to be able to take off as quickly as possible.
Do you honestly believe you'll be able to get away?
Oh, trust me, Haru. I have no intention of being on the leading edge of a car chase, so don't try it. If I see a single pursuer, they'll be fishing our car from the ocean with a crane tomorrow morning.
You're insane.
Do you think a sane person could do any of this?
Even if you manage to shake us, you won't be able to shake the police.
Oh, I imagine I won't. After all, there's nothing keeping you from running to the boys in blue this time.
Do you plan on living on the run for the rest of your life? Waking up scared every morning, wondering if today will be the day they finally drag you in?
What's this? After making all that fuss and saying you won't go easy on me, you're still trying to persuade me? Don't you think that's a little too soft for you, Haru? Haru had apparently ignored Yuki's provocation as she countered with a deadly blow.
Your father's going to be the one chasing you, Yuki.
I highly doubt it, she answered coldly. Officers are automatically removed from any cases involving family members. Daddy'll probably be sent back to the countryside.
You've thought about this, I see. So let me emphasize once more. If you give up now, this won't become public. You can go back home to your father. Now come out from there.
Oh, please. You want me to surrender? Me, one of Mao's accomplices? Why, so you and Kyosuke can have me torn apart?
No.
Haru's faltering voice betrayed her hesitance. But even if Haru had a change of heart, the Soniyama men outside would wring every last drop of blood from Yuki. She's right, you know.
Yeah.
They've been chasing Maou for a good while now, too.
And I'm willing to bet they would sacrifice the director to get information on Maou.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
That's enough chit-chat for now. I'll tell you my next demand. Yuki glimpsed at Misaho. Her sister was already lost for words, dark with despair. Ellipses. Ellipses.
I listened to Tokida's demand over the receiver.
I've got a question for the director.
What? What do you want to ask?
It's important, so I expect honesty.
She prefaced herself with that before continuing.
What do you know about the man who set fire to the house my mother and I were living in back in Hokuriku?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I highly doubt that. You gave the order, didn't you?
I told you. I don't know what you're talking about.
You've been after the records she had kept of your under-the-table dealings for a long time. After that little fire of yours, everything just disappeared. Everything we owned just went up in smoke. Literally. Worked out for you, didn't it?
The director shook his head frantically, obviously in a panic.
The villagers had always been a bunch of shits to us, so the police investigation was, let's say, less than thorough. In any case, thanks to our house being burned down, Mom's health got a lot worse. Do you know what that means?
It means whoever was responsible for that fire took years off of Tokida's mother's life.
Come clean already. I know it was someone you hired.
I didn't tell him to set any fires.
The orders were to sneak in and steal it back, weren't they? When your man couldn't find it, he figured it'd be easier to just torch the whole house. Does that sound about right?
No, I was just worried about you. That's right. I had asked Katakura-kun to check up on how you were doing.
His name is Katakura, is it? Is he a legitimate employee? Did this side job help his career along?
He's one of our executives. What about it?
What do you think? Get Katakura down here. I'm sure he's used to taking your orders, right?
Don't be ridiculous. You've got no proof of any arson. Do you have any idea what time it is right now? Don't bring unrelated people into this.
I'll decide who's unrelated here. You got it? This is my courtroom.
Yes, Judge Judy.
Hey, Judge Judy is awesome.
Her voice was cold enough to freeze one's blood. Sir, I think it would be best to comply with her demands for now. But... Look, if need be, I can get my father to erase certain things. You know what I mean? I just made up some bullshit, but it seemed to have gotten the job done nicely. Looks like we've got no other option. He reluctantly agreed.
Once you've made all the necessary calls, I want you to enter the warehouse.
Why?
Is that a refusal?
Tokida's voice was brimming with rage.
I'll release Mizuha if you come take her place.
Sweat trickled from the director's forehead.
Your daughter's life is at stake here. Even a demon like you wouldn't abandon Mizuha, would you?
Wait! What do you intend to do with me?
I'll leave that as a surprise. Hurry it up.
He looked at me as if looking for help. Well? I don't have the right to force him into it. He blinks over and over, and his hand balls into a clumsy fist. Alright.
Wait.
Usami grabs the director's shoulder with her free hand.
It's too dangerous.
But...
Haru, what do you think you're doing?
At Yuki's prompting, Usami declares her thoughts with seemingly absolute confidence.
There's no way you would ever harm Mizuha Yuki. Oh.
In other words, your current hostage has no value as a hostage.
Is that what you think?
Yes. Thus, I can't afford to give you the director.
I see. She can't kill Shiratori, but she can kill the director. If she had the director held hostage instead of her own sister, she could feasibly make outrageous demands.
I see. I underestimated you, Haru. You completely exceeded my expectations.
Ellipses.
However, you seem to have misunderstood something. I feel I should clarify this.
What?
The sound of flesh being harshly beaten jumped from the receiver, and perfectly coinciding with that,
Ah!
Shiratori's scream followed suit.
Did you hear that?
Tokida's cruelty manifested itself in Shiratori's gasps.
Yuki.
Usami's brows tensed, and after some time she began to speak.
What did you do to Mizuha?
I backhanded her. But I think I just found a rusty nail lying on the floor in here. I might just use that next time.
Cut it out.
If you obey me like a good girl, I'll do just that.
Someone nearby had had enough and jumped into the conversation. Alright, look, take me. Just release my daughter.
She's your daughter too.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to think so.
Hear that? You've got such a sweet papa, Misa. I wish he'd have been so sweet to me.
I decided to speak up and mustered the calmest voice I could. Hey, Tokita, you're not lying when you said you'll release Shiratori if we hand over the director, are you?
Of course not. Trust me.
I'd love to. You just don't seem too trustworthy right now.
How did I know you'd say that, Kyosuke-kun? From the very first moment I laid eyes on you, I knew you and I had a lot in common.
You mean like the way we think?
No, I was referring to the labyrinthine darkness within our homes.
Alright, look. I've had enough of this shit. Trump card time. Either Shiratori comes out, or we're coming in.
Do you think you'll be able to break the door down?
Well, let's see. We've got a couple dozen men out here who could wrestle bulls. So, I'm gonna say yes, I do. And I also say that if it comes to that, you're through, Tokita.
Oh, most definitely. I really do love this side of you, you know.
Good one, Tokita. We'll see who's laughing when these guys drag you out of the hiding. Actually, we already have a route into the warehouse. There's a window on the side. It's about 5 yards off the ground, but that shouldn't be a problem if we get a few men standing on top of each other's shoulders. Still, that should be a last resort.
Hey, Kyosuke-kun. Why not switch over to my side? I think I'm a pretty resourceful gal. You might decide you like me.
Sure, sounds great, honestly. We can hammer out the specifics once you come out of there.
Fantastic. Hand over the director and I'll be right with you.
No.
Usami stopped the director a second time as he started toward the warehouse entrance. Let me go! I have no other choice!
You can't. There's a criminal in there waiting to kill you. Don't you realize that?
Whoopsies. Usami finally called Tokita a criminal. It was likely a measure she took to kill her personal feelings towards her friend.
You're a stubborn one, Haru. That man is a degenerate, inhuman worm of a human being.
Even so, I can't just let him die.
Tokita gave a short, nasal laugh.
And that's why you have no friends, Haru. When you act all righteous, people think you're weird. People want to keep their heroes in their video games.
I'm sorry, but we're not exchanging hostages.
If you truly insist on being so unyielding, then you best prepare for your worst case scenario.
I said no, and I mean no. Director Shiratori, I want you to stand over there.
Usami managed to stare the director down as he took 2 steps back.
Well, Haru, great negotiations so far.
Tokita remarked sarcastically.
I'll call again later.
Usami let her arm holding the phone slide down as a sigh escaped her lips. Are you sure we made the right call there, Usami?
The second she takes the director hostage, it's over.
I realize that, but we can't just let Shiratori die.
Yuki wouldn't touch Mizuha.
Why are you still acting so naive? She just hit Shiratori a few seconds ago.
Nah, that was just a bluff.
How can you say that? We heard the whole thing, didn't we?
Think about it. If Yuki really had backhanded Mizuha, there's no way she would have screamed in the next second like that.
She's right. If Shiratori really had been smacked, she would have gone speechless from the shock.
Most likely, she just clapped her hands together in front of Mizuho. It scared her, so she screamed out in surprise.
Which would mean...
The criminal still has some semblance of a conscience.
Still, huh?
That was Yuki's downfall. If she hadn't bluffed like that, we might have accepted the trade.
But, as it played out, she practically told us she wouldn't be hurting Shiratori anytime soon.
Like I said earlier, this means that her hostage lacks any real functional purpose.
Which means we've got the edge.
Yeah,
Usami nodded as she stared at the warehouse's wall.
check out that window over there.
Megalipses. Ellipses.